Hello and welcome
This
to
movie sucked.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
start out this way.
No. You're spoiling it for everybody. Hold on. Hello and welcome to Drive-In Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan.
I'm Ryan.
This is the podcast where we talk about 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into this week's movie, which I don't know, maybe it was spoiled to you a little early. I don't know. But you can go over to our Patreon, patreon.com/drive-in double feature podcast. We have a bunch of bonus episodes over there, and we've been putting out a lot of stuff. Ryan made me a really fun game. So if you want to see me play that, or if you want to see us talk about Letterboxd, we have it over there. We are talking about Eaten Alive, the 1980 Italian cannibal film directed by Umberto Lenzi. This is a cannibal movie. I think the first one we've talked about, not the first jungle movie we talked about, but definitely the first cannibal movie we talked about. We've been kind of skirting around these types of movies because they usually have animal violence. And let me tell you, I just want to give a warning just for this episode. We're going to describe some things that are pretty graphic. I feel like I need to put that disclaimer on here. This movie is messed up. Ryan watched it before I did. I saw your Letterboxd review, Ryan, and he said this movie. And I was like, okay, all right, it's gonna be pretty bad.
You're like, okay, he's being a little overly harsh here. He's a little sensitive. Let me just go in there. Let me just prove him wrong by saying it's not that bad.
And it wasn't. Everything in here was really tame. I don't know what you were scared of. No, it was it was bad. It was really bad. Because at first I was like, this is an interesting movie. For the first maybe 3 minutes, I was like, oh, this is kind of odd, kind of weird. It doesn't. It gets to the animal violence really fast. That is the worst part of this movie is the animal violence. And real animals die. And I've seen Cannibal Holocaust. I know you haven't, Ryan. I feel like Cannibal Holocaust would have been a better pick because Cannibal Holocaust is not as bad as this. Like, this is like on a new extreme. I had not seen an Italian movie do like this bad, and I'm sure you felt the same way. Like, it was just like sickening.
Well, I knew it was gonna do. I don't like watching animals get killed. It's a part of life, whatever. But I think the most egregious part is that this is stock footage, and if it was real animals getting killed, then I would have been okay with it.
Well, that's I there is something worse about it, right? That this because all the animal death is taken from other movies and just spliced into the middle of just as a non sequitur between scenes. And I think that's worse that they're at least take that scene of a monkey dying and put it in the middle of the movie. I think audiences will really appreciate that it doesn't go with the plot at all.
Yeah, there's these total non sequiturs that do not affect the plot whatsoever. If you take these scenes out of the movie, nothing changes at all. No. It's not essential to the plot at all. And the thing too, me being serious, is the thing. Let's just say they did film these scenes for the movie.
Yeah.
My assumption is that there's some scenes where not only do they murder these animals, which it's wrong. We've said it before. We don't think you should kill an animal for a movie, but some of these, it's like other animals killing other animals, and I'm almost positive they intentionally put these animals in
that's true,
predator situations. It's like you got these Italians standing around like, hey, let's get the monkey by the python. It's like
no, exactly. And they're like, yeah, this will make for a greater movie. But no, I agree, and I felt that way during that scene, and it's one thing to capture something like that and put it in for a second. That's the scene that really messed me up. When I sent you a text this movie, it was the monkey scene, because it holds on it for so long, and it just is horrible to watch because monkeys are close to us. Monkeys are cute little dudes, and then to see one die like that, I was just like, man, I can't believe this. That automatically makes this just one of the worst we've talked about.
They very well could have gotten the scene where they're like they just happen to see a nature happening in front of them, which
Yeah.
if they did, fair game. I mean, I
Mhm.
guess. I
Because
mean,
you
it
could
was
see
gonna.
that
It
like in
was
a documentary, right?
right. I mean, it was gonna happen anyway. So whatever. But I just don't. I don't believe in having that luck like that, where it's like, oh yeah, we just happened to catch this monkey being eaten alive by a
No.
python.
Because
Like,
it's not like an iPhone, right? And like it can't just like pick up an iPhone and record something. They have like film cameras that they would have to set up, and like I mean, not a long setup, but they have to be like, okay, give me the camera really quickly so I can film this. It's a much harder process.
yeah,
Um,
but yeah, this is a very disgusting movie. Like, I did not have a good time watching this, and
no.
I and even if you take out the offensive parts in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
which I mean, where there's not just animal murdering, there's more than that.
No,
But
luckily I didn't pick an animal murder movie. Like it was
yeah,
just seems. Oh my god, could you imagine? Well, that's
yeah.
uh,
You just like have like it's just like a documentary of a butcher house or something.
oh
Just
god. I mean, I'm sure it exists, but
yeah. But besides all that, like just taking as the movie for what it is, the plot of it and the characters, it's still kind of a boring movie. It's like not even like
mm,
I didn't even there's a lot of parts where it drags
yeah.
and even then it's just like okay, what do we pad the runtime in? It's like, okay, we got some murder, we got some cannibals. How can we pad the rest of this? Oh, I know, rape. It's like let's just throw that in there too.
Exactly.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, great, we get multiple scenes of this too.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's like the worst elements of like movies you could think of. And it's boring, right? Like you said, like it's like I tuned out at some point during this one. And it wasn't just from like the egregious like horrible things I've seen. It was just kind of boring. Like I don't know how you can make like a cannibal movie boring. Like, I mean, like that's in like I don't know, just see some blood, some gore, some cannibals eat up some bodies or something. There's surprisingly little of that in this movie. When it pops up, it's bloody and gory, but it's mostly a cult movie more than anything.
No, I mean they do like the little cannibal. They do a cannibal scene in the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie,
Yeah.
and and like I said, if you see a woman in this movie, just assume something horrible is going to happen to them because
Yeah.
that's pretty much like I don't think there was one female character that didn't get hurt, assaulted, or murdered in some way.
No, yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, just all the worst things you could think of. And I mean, the first 2 minutes, I was like, oh, this is kind of funny, right? Because it takes the beginning's in New York and it has this like guy doing like poison blow darts and killing people in the streets of New York. I was like, this is funny. Okay, this is interesting.
I was kind of interested in that, but they don't ever reference. Do they ever explain why that was
No,
happening?
no, they do not explain what the connection is there. And that pisses me off because that there's a much better movie at the beginning of this movie than what we get.
Because I thought it was going to be something like they were getting blow darted, and then they were going to get taken over there, and then they were going to get
Mm-hmm.
taken by the cannibals or something like that. But it's just this guy just doing blow darts or whatever.
Yeah, and really the only connection is he gets killed, and then it gets connected to our main character Sheila, played by Janet Agron, who uh, who is related to somebody who's in a cult in New Guinea. So there's your
Her
connection.
sister.
Sorry, her sister. And this is where the movie kind of brings in the Jim Jones connection, the Jonestown cult, where the cult that killed themselves with Kool-Aid, kind of what they're famously known for.
What flavor?
Was it grape? I believe it was grape.
Okay.
Actually,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Whatever it was, you can fact check me. Email us at driveandoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. Um,
I would die for green Kool-Aid.
for green, oh, for Ecto Cooler.
Yeah.
It's so messed up. I'm just imagining like I've got Ecto Cooler. Drink your Ecto Cooler.
Oh god,
The 80s kids are just going wild.
I drink every last drop.
You're gonna have to make 2 punch bowls, buddy. Oh man. Oh man. Okay. But no, there is no Kool-Aid in this movie. It's just like ambrosia or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this girl, our main character, goes on a journey to New Guinea to find her sister Diana because they found footage of her sister in the middle of a ritual. And it's not even that crazy of a ritual. They kind of, they like string up some guy and they step on some fire or whatever. But she decides, we need to go and save her.
Well, then the video too, it's like these tribes people getting hung by metal hooks, like
That's right. Yeah.
they're getting impaled by these hooks. And what I like too in this scene, this is probably the part where it was unintentionally funny, where they were like, because they were trying to determine, it's like, well, it could either be in Borneo or it could be in New Guinea, and
Yeah.
and they chose New Guinea, and I'm like, what if they chose Borneo? Like,
Wouldn't that be so funny if they chose the wrong place?
like there was just like a 50, they had a 50-50 shot of like this whole movie could have just like gone nowhere.
Yeah, there we go. That's what this movie needs. Let's go back in time and tell Umberto Lenzi, like, hey, I know how to pad your movie out. Have him go to the wrong place for the first hour. And then they're like, oh, I guess we got to go to New Guinea now.
I wonder what New Guinea thought of this movie, because the movie is set in New Guinea. So I was like, I wonder if the people in New Guinea are just like, what the hell?
Right. I feel like this movie is very offensive and very racist. I get that feeling from it. I don't know. They get to New Guinea and they're all doing like arm wrestling where you get stabbed. I was like, I wish this was an over the top where, like their hand gets impaled if they lose the arm
God.
wrestling.
That'd be pretty cool. Like an over the top sequel, they just have like knives like sticking out of the table.
Over the top. Like your career is over if you lose this arm wrestling championship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, she meets up with a guy, Robert Kerman, who is famous porn star Robert Kerman. He starred in one of this show's favorite, Debbie Does Dallas. He's in the first Debbie Does Dallas. Wow. He's also the star of Cannibal Holocaust too. So he just had a cannibal thing as well.
I did read that he got this part and they didn't realize he was a porno actor.
Sounds about right.
Like they realized after the fact that he was in porno.
Oh, wow, you were in porno. Okay. That's interesting.
Oh, and you forgot to mention that the character Sheila and her sister are both very Southern.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that. That had me laughing, man. But here's the thing, the Southern
I
accent.
gotta find my sister.
The Southern accent only comes in every once in a while. And I didn't even notice she was like Southern at first until they get on the helicopter, and she says like a really awful line, like the one where she's like, she's like, oh, my father has a couple black people working at the sugar mill, except she doesn't say black people. She says a slur, and I was like, are you kidding me? This is the 1980s. Come on now. Like Umberto Lenzi thinks Alabama is like.
Still plantations are still running to this day or something.
Yeah, it was like, oh my god. But yes, they're very Southern, and it's which is funny because that actress, she's Swedish, which is probably like the furthest from a Southern.
Well, like the main actress is Swedish, so she's got the fair skin with blonde hair, and then her sister Diana, the one who's part of the cult, is very, very Italian, like very olive skin, dark hair. Like they look like strangers. Like if you said these people are sisters, you wouldn't believe them.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and I mean this is where the movie really hits its stride of showing clips of random violence. It showing rapes. There's just one off scene where a lady just gets raped by a group of cannibals and gets murdered, and it has nothing to do with the plot, right? Like I'm trying to
No.
remember. Yeah, it was just like, okay, this is happening now. And it's interesting because it could have been an interesting movie because they take a journey down a river. Their guide gets attacked by a crocodile, which I thought was funny. When we think about something we're covering later. But he gets attacked by a crocodile, and it could be a fun little journey movie, but it really is ruined by like the non sequitur, just like ultra violence and sex.
I think I would have liked it more if it was like an adventure type of movie where it was like them
Mm-hmm.
trying to get to the cannibal or like to get to the cult, but then it's like once they get there, I mean, it's like they do the whole thing where it's like Sheila becomes infatuated with the cult leader, and
Mm.
then but she's under his mind control, and then they do like this other random part where Mark like pretends like to want to join the cult, and there's this weird scene too where like I forget what, oh yeah, they find booze,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, oh, this guy, he brought this booze into our camp. He's like, no, I didn't. He's like, yes, you did. And he just like beats him up, and he's like, there, I proved my faith. I just beat the crap out of this guy. And they're like, he's like, yes, you
Yeah, it's
did, good
that easy.
job.
And this is after he tries to escape, right?
Yeah, it's like he just beat up like the second in command pretty much. And just like, good job.
Yeah, but no, I agree. I was a little afraid to talk about this movie because once it gets to the cult, my interest in this movie just like plummeted. Like it's like it gets so uninteresting. It's like a very much back and forth. Like this guy's talking, the Dracula theme plays, the Dracula's monsters theme plays.
Oh
Right?
yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
yeah. But yeah, that plays, and they do like a bunch of men have sex with a woman in the middle of the place.
Well, yeah, they say like her husband died, so in order for her to become single again, she has to have sex with all the other brothers of the
Mhm.
family, which is I'm like, ugh. And it's just, I
I,
mean, it's just naked dudes getting on top of this woman, and it's just like, okay,
and
yeah,
it goes on for so long.
like, do I really need to see this? I'm.
I can't imagine the sick freak that like loved this movie. And I'm sure there's people out there that love this movie for whatever reason. I think it has an Arrow release, but what Italian movie doesn't? But
Yeah. Well, I mean, people love gore. Some people love gore a lot. And, if you like it, whatever. But it's not my cup of tea.
no, no.
Eh, eh.
Um,
I will say, it just, they show so many parts of this. And it's just like, there's another scene too where it's like they get Sheila in the room and they kill a snake, and they
mhm.
like put snake blood all over it, like a wooden dildo, and it's like,
Yep,
okay,
the
yeah,
spike dildo.
I
Yeah.
wonder what's gonna happen in this scene. It's like it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my god, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah. Wow. Because that's the movie. It's just trying to shock value, just keep you shocked for the movie. It thinks that's interesting over plot is just shock. Yeah, because it's so back and forth with the cult, right? It's like, oh, we're gonna try to escape, and he convinces Diana to escape, but Sheila is under the control. She gets painted in gold, like Goldfinger does, which is
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and yeah, I mean, it all leads up to like a big escape. I'm trying to even remember any good scenes with the cult leader. It seems like he's a good actor. I kind of liked his presence, but I don't think he really does anything.
Yeah, he's I want to say he's uh he is an Italian actor, I know,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't think of. I don't think he's been in anything else noteworthy other than other
Italian
schlock
movies.
Italian movies. Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
but he was okay, I guess. But I mean, I don't remember anything interesting with him in it, and I just
Mm-mm. Ends up being a pretty interesting scene when they're running away from the cannibals. Well, sorry, there's a little bit in between that, but I'll just continue with what I was saying. This is the very end of the movie where a helicopter comes with the police in it, and they actually get lifted out of there like last moment with cannibals like going after them. It's an interesting end to a different movie. Like it forgets that it's a cult movie, kind of.
right.
Yeah.
The part I was gonna say is like she's under the cult leader. Sheila's under the cult leader spell, and she gets hit in the face so many times by Mark.
Yeah.
Like he just like smacks her, and then there's the other scene where they start to try to escape from the camp, and he's got Sheila's sister Diana, and then this other girl, and they're trying to escape together. And Mark's like, "Oh, I got to go back for Sheila," and they end up getting murdered, eaten alive by these cannibals, and they show it like in agonizing detail. It's just like
they chop everything off,
and they and Mark is just like sitting there, just like staring, like not doing anything. And
it was like the slowest thing ever, like to get him over there to even attempt to save them, and then he just watches them. He's like, "Oh, I can't do anything with this. I'm gonna just let him kill him."
And then Sheila comes over and she sees that he literally just like full on punches her in the face and knocks her out. And like, because it's her sister getting eaten alive. And then when they're explaining the scene later, she's like, "Oh yeah, I don't remember anything after I fainted." I'm like, "You didn't faint, you got hit in the face."
That ending of this movie is also really stupid, because the whole time she's offered $60,000 to him, 80,000. And he's the whole time he's like, "I'm getting my money, I'm getting my 80,000," and in the end the check bounces and he's like, "Oh, so you don't have this money?" And she's like, "Well, it seems like you don't have any luck, do you?" And that's it. That's how the movie. And could you imagine going on that whole journey expecting that much money, and then getting told no, all that death and pain that you went through, you get nothing for that.
Yeah, you're all this trauma like you're gonna be holding for the rest of your life is sorry.
If you couldn't tell overall, I mean, this just,
I give it a recommend.
Yeah, you would. You freak. No. Well, at least I will say I do not recommend this movie. I wholeheartedly, like, if it even sound interesting to you, which I don't know. Like, I think like real animal death in a movie is usually a very big turnoff to a lot of people. And yeah, just leave it at that. Don't watch it. You'll have a pretty bad time.
Yeah, I mean, when Nathan picked this movie, I was screaming out, "Do you want me to suffer?" And like, and Nathan was like, "What? You didn't like this movie?" And I said, take a wild guess."
But you finished it before 5:40, which is good.
Yes, I did, because we always record at 6. So, but
yes.
No, I did not like this movie at all. I mean, I think if you love gore, I mean, sure, why not? But I mean, any of this stuff that doesn't sound palpable to you, which it wasn't to me, I definitely say avoid to the highest degree. It's probably one of my most hated movies we've talked about on this show.
Yeah, it was pretty miserable. But I mean, hey, we gotta have a couple miserable ones, right?
When do we talk about good movies again? When's the last good?
It's gonna be a while. But that does wrap it up for today. Ryan, remind us, what are we going to be talking about on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, I'm still hungry, so we're going to get Eaten Alive some more with the other movie of Eaten Alive, which is free on Tubi right now.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'm excited to watch that. And if you want to send us an email us at driveindoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. You can also tweet at us at DIDFpod. But until next time.
Till next time.